Welcome to the Rearview Mirror podcast, looking back on all that we don't know and a few things that we do. What's the story behind those lighters?
Behind me?
Yeah.
Hey, the mic didn't fall. I'm feeling pretty good about
nice.
myself.
Cancel that order.
It'll fall. Give me just a few more minutes.
We probably need to have a budget review before you make any orders or spend any money. You know, we haven't really looked at our P&L.
I just spend the money. Don't worry about it. Okay. What was your question?
What's behind those story behind those two lighters?
Oh,
Yeah,
my gosh.
I really like those.
Okay, so years ago, we had this group at a church where I worked, and
That's already a good story.
I know. And so we were going to burn the church down one night. No, I'm kidding. But we did this sexual integrity group. We had a bunch of guys come out, and we just talked a whole lot about, you know, how do you navigate this world with porn and all that jazz and walk
Right.
well. So on the very first session, we had like 8 sessions. Well, we expected to have 12 guys show up. And I think we ended up like 40 guys that showed up. So
Wow.
and it was crazy. And so on the very first week when we started talking, I stood up with this and I said, you know, I like to play with fire. And back then, of course, I had lighter fluid in it, so it would light. And I was playing with it. I said, I like to play with fire. And I'm lighting this little Zippo lighter, you know, and I said, and fire's got some really great properties to it. It brings warmth. Fire can, you know, create light on a dark night, But fire can also burn you. It can be very destructive and in the wrong hands. I said, the same way it is with sex. And so that became the metaphor, just talking about, you know, be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful. Sex in and of itself is never bad. It's a gift from God. But,
Amen.
man, if we don't use it right, it can do unbelievable damage.
Right.
So that was the beginning of the little metaphor. And so every couple weeks I might pull it out and talk about it. Remember, there's nothing wrong with fire. It's just how you use it. Well, on the last week, it's classic me. I like to always spike, you know, the group that guys have been a part of. So
What does that mean when you say spike?
No,
it?
like I want to give them something that reminds them of the group, reminds them of what we talked about and experienced.
Okay.
You know, and so I thought I'm gonna buy all these guys a little Zippo lighter like this. And so I found them, I don't know, on Amazon or wherever, and they were a couple bucks, and I bought them. And I had this little ceremony at the end, not ceremony, but just like this little at the end, just saying, hey guys, before you go, just got something for you to remember this, set it somewhere in your office, and remember, hey, fire is not the problem, it's how I use it's the problem. And so I was giving this out. Well, as I was giving them out to the guys, there were these 2 guys in the back room, and they were just like snickering the whole time. I mean, to the point I like a little ticked, like, what are you doing, man? Chill. Yeah. You know, then this is supposed to be a cool moment, right?
It's my show. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's all about me.
Yeah, right. Come on.
Well, it's funny then after I finished, they stood up and they said, Jeff, we have something. And unbeknownst to me, they had the same idea. And so they gave me this gift. And they had found this Zippo. And this sucker, I mean, again, no lighter fluid, but Steve, I mean, it comes up to about right here. When you fill that thing up, it's so much fun. So I've just always kept them because I love it. I just think
I love that.
It's a cool, you know, it's cool. So this podcast is sponsored by Zippo.
Yes.
For all your smoking
Well, really,
needs.
we'd be sponsored by anybody who wants to. Starbucks, I can advertise your shirts. Yeah, as I said, our revenue is 0 right now. So whatever we need to do.
That's right.
You have a love for fire anyway.
Yeah. How do you know that? How do you know that about me? Because that's actually true.
I know it's true. This was there are 2 or 3 funny stories about you and fire, but this one comes to mind. So Jeff and I cooked dinner for a friend of ours' son that was getting married. This was the wedding dinner.
Yep.
Cooked outside on a big grill. Worked great, but we'd had
like
some
by big grill, like the trailer grill, a big 6-footer. Yeah.
You had to walk from one end to the other. Like I couldn't reach. I had to walk from one end to the other. So we'd had conversations about timing and how do you get it started. And so how do you get the fire started, keep the fire going. So Jeff shows up, uber prepared as always. And I see him getting this thing out of his truck. And looks like a propane tank attached to something that was probably used by terrorists as a torture. I mean, as a torture implement. But it's this long rod. Anyway, long story short, this thing sprays fire that would have. I mean, if it would have caught one of the buildings, they would have been up in like 2 minutes, gone. It was unbelievable. But not only it lit the trailer grill in about 10 seconds.
I think it was awesome. Yeah.
And then it got so hot, we had to take everything off the grill and put foil over it so that it wouldn't burn, and then put it back on. But it did work. But it was that's a good microcosm of you and fire, because you go big when you do something, you go big.
No, that's true. That's true.
And you do love fire. I don't understand what that's about. But
it's funny. I've never thought about this. In second grade, I almost burnt my school down. We had this
again, not surprising.
We had this. There was this field beside our school in August, in Tennessee. Man, the grass weeds were super high, and there were a bunch of us kids. I mean, second graders. So what is that? 8-year-old, 9-year-olds, and just from the neighborhood. And we were down there, and we were playing, and the field, the field, the hay, the whatever it was probably as tall as we were. I just remember it was like a little, kids' playground. We were loving it. So we started walking in line. I'm sure some of the girls came with this idea, and we made these little pathways all the way through it. And we got back to where we built a little house. So we had these. This is the living room, and this is the kitchen, and there were probably 8 of us kids out there doing that. Well, we had never had a fireplace in our house, but my grandmother did, and I always thought, gosh, I'd love to have a fireplace. So that day, while we're out there and we're walking around, somebody said, "Well, and we'll pretend like there's a fireplace here." And I remember thinking, we don't have to pretend. We have matches at my house. So I ran home, grabbed matches, my little 9-year-old, 8-year-old brain. And next thing I know, the next memory I have, I remember lighting where the fireplace would be. Just this dry grass. I had no clue. The next memory I have is I'm sitting in the bathtub crying. My mom's in there, and I've got a burn on my finger. And she goes, "Did you have something to do with why the field is on fire down by the school?" And I just remember crying and going, "I did it," and then I have no idea what happened. But the school didn't burn, so I got
just a field
hidden pyro. Evidently,
you're a little pyro. Yeah, you are. I remember I had an old Jeep Cherokee, and I was going to lunch with a friend of mine, and this was before we even had kids years ago. We parked in the little parking lot of this strip center and got out. My Jeep wouldn't start. And so he said, "I've got some jumper cables." And this guy, I'm not going to use any names. He may be listening, but I got in the car to start him. He hooked up the jumper cables. Well, next thing you know, the hood is open on my Jeep, and there's fire coming out, flames coming up. And I promise I'm not making this up. As we sat there going, what do we do? Our city water company had a truck. Was pulling in the parking lot, drove by, didn't say a word, got out, took their equipment, sprayed it down, put the equipment back, wave, and gone.
No.
I can't. I promise I'm not making any of that up. We sat there stunned.
Awesome.
So he had put the cables on backwards.
Mm-hmm. And it sparked.
And it just, there you go. So today's episode's about fire.
Evidently,
it is. Right. We're going with fire.
Well, if we're going to talk about fire, we should talk about the moments when we've cooked, because I know both of us love to cook outdoors, and the fire's actually worked to cook something good. Like when you cook over fire, what's some of your favorite things to cook?
Ooh, man, I've had a love-hate relationship over the years with a brisket.
Really?
And so I've probably tried to cook brisket 10 times, and it's always okay.
Yeah.
And I've got a good friend in North Carolina, and he's a real cook. He's a barbecue guy. He's a North Carolina barbecue guy. So he's been on the Today Show. He's cooked for the governor. I mean, he's got status.
He's the deal.
Yeah. So years ago, I called him, and he's younger than me, and I said, "Hey, man, this was Saturday morning, and I said, hey, I'm going to do a brisket, and I need some help." And he just said in that Eastern North Carolina accent, "Hey, Bo, you ain't ready to do that. It's Big Boy Barbecue. Call me back." And hung up on me.
Just shut you down.
Just hung up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And but in December, I did one, late December, and it was just absolutely incredible.
Really?
First time ever. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Get the little nice ring around
Had
it.
a beautiful ring. You could just pull it. It just came apart when you were pulling it out of the parchment. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's awesome. I love when fire helps me build a cook, just the kind of meat that turns out great. I tell you, I'm that way with ribs. The first batch of ribs I ever made, I thought, oh my gosh, I'll never buy ribs anywhere. I'm natural. This is incredible.
You're the rib king.
They were perfect. I don't think I've had a good rack of ribs since.
Yeah.
I still don't know what I did differently or what I do differently. I mean, they're edible, they're good, but
then it's tough because I think with barbecuing or smoking something, it's time intensive. You got to really want to do it. And to me, you got to learn how to do it good. I've had a debate with a buddy of mine here. He loves steak fajitas. That's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So it takes some time. And I do them. And like you said, they're good. They're fine.
Yeah.
But, man, I can go down to Garcia's and get unbelievable steak fajitas, and he's always telling me, hey, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? I said, look, the bang for your, it's not that, it's the bang for your buck. I don't have enough bang for my buck to want to work on that all day. I don't like them enough, But there are those things. I've been that way with the ribs too. I can smoke a really good chicken, good pork butt, getting there on brisket and wings. The other things, ribs, I like ribs, but I like a half a rack and then I'm done. I'm not going to eat them for 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's not worth the trouble. And they're hard. Yeah. They're not easy to do. Yeah. And
that's one of the things you've taught me, I think, is there are certain foods that it's not worth the effort to cook because it's easier to go buy. Like I know your example is fried chicken. You always talk about,
oh my goodness,
why would I try to learn to fry chicken?
And I could fry a pretty good chicken. Yeah. And I make really good chicken tenders. But then without fail, at the end of that, I'm thinking, man, Publix makes pretty good chicken.
That was a lot of work.
That was
right?
a hell of a lot of work for this fried chicken. And you don't just eat fried chicken. You got to have sides, and the sides take time.
Right.
And so you've created this whole meal that you eat, and then you pass out because you're so tired. Then you got leftovers. You think, man, I don't really want to eat that for 3 days straight.
Right.
I don't ever want to eat the same meal twice in a row anyway. That's very first world. But so yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny. That's funny. I think my brisket story is the one that, when I first started cooking brisket, the way I was doing it, really low, really slow. I mean, there were 15, 16, 17-hour cooks. I mean, it was just 225, just, slow, and then do the crunch, the Texas foil, the Texas crunch on it, And, man, the first couple I did turned out, I thought good. I don't think I really knew how to compare it to good brisket. Then you have good brisket and you realize, okay, mine was okay.
Yeah.
But I think I got this mentality that every time you cook a brisket, it's going to be 16, 17 hours, put on at midnight or 11 o'clock at night and cook through the night, get to the stall, you know. So I don't know what happened. A buddy of mine, Scott, I've told you about him before. We both are experiencing this the last couple of years, is that for some reason, even when I cook low, our briskets seem to be getting done quicker, Well, the first time I discovered that was I was just kind of hunkered down for a 15, 16-hour cook. And it got to about 11 hours where it usually is, and I was going out there to put look at the instant read on it and look at my phone, but then look at the instant read too. And I'd not been paying attention because I thought I'm nowhere close. And man, I opened up and that thing was, it was like burnt. I mean like crisp. Like
burnt
I
brisket.
put it in, yeah, it was like 206, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gone way beyond. And I was like, this just can't be true because it's only been on there like 9 hours at that time, But yeah, it they talk about burnt ends being a great thing. Yeah, they're okay, but I pretty much ruined a good brisket that day.
No, that's tough.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
I've learned too that burnt, and barbecue people may correct me. Burnt ends they're not actually always, they're not burnt really.
Exactly.
They're just and I ended up buying, when I did this in December, I bought a whole brisket for the first time.
Oh, okay. What do you do usually? That's like a little flat.
I usually do the flat.
Okay.
And which is just a segment of it, but this had the local place had one that was a prime cut, and it was actually cheaper than the flat, so I just bought the whole thing.
Yep.
So I could do burnt ends too. So I think that helped a ton. But it's like I got a guy in Mississippi that I follow, and so it's about $275, $285 for 4 or 5 hours till it gets that bark on it you like. Parchment paper for another 4 or 5, and then cooler for as long as you want.
Yeah.
But it was really good, and I knew it was good because we went to, my daughter lives in Dallas, so we're driving down to see her one time, and right outside of the Texarkana, Arkansas line on the way down, there's a, can't remember the city, but there's a kind of a famous little barbecue joint.
Okay.
And we walk in, we have lunch, Jen and I have lunch, and Jen likes barbecue too, but she's not going to go out of her way for brisket. Well, we got some brisket, and her reaction was priceless. I mean, she said, "This is unbelievable." I said, "I know. This is how far off I am on my brisket."
That's right.
That's what she was thinking, and I said it. I said, "This is." If you ever want to know how you suck at barbecue, just run down to Texas and get some brisket. So I, a little more research, got all my stuff lined up in December, and this one was pretty. it looked like it when you took it out of the parchment paper. It had that nice greasy sheen on it, and it was really, God, it was good, man.
Gosh, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking back to so many screw up moments in cooking through the years. You know, I've always cooked burgers on the grill, and you know, the burgers are, I mean, they're almost impossible to mess up. I mean, you can, but it's pretty hard.
Pretty tough,
you know.
Yeah.
But I just remember when Laura and I got married. I haven't told this story in years. When Laura and I got married, we were so dirt poor. I mean, you know, our parents helped out what they could, and it is what it is. So we tried to cut corners on every expense we could. So for the rehearsal dinner, after rehearsal at the church, you know, old traditional late '80s wedding, we went to a local park, beautiful summer day, and some buddies of mine were going to just cook some chicken over the grill, just barbecue chicken, and we had ordered some sides in from somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know why we didn't order the whole meal in, but we were probably that poor. And I remember getting there, and the guys are down there, and they can't even get the charcoal grill lit.
It's a bad start.
And so here I am on my, you know, the night before my wedding. I'm down there. I'm helping getting the charcoal rolling. Finally get the chicken on, and I said, guys, this is really easy. Here's all you've got to do. And it was just legs. I mean, it wasn't like it was, again, not super complex. I remember them being down there, and they finally start bringing the chicken up on these platters. And I remember picking up a piece because I was starved, and I bit into it. And I mean, it wasn't that it was undercooked. It was like, I mean,
chicken tartare.
It was chicken tartare. You're exactly right. It was so nasty. And
that'll set you back a little bit.
Oh man,
that'll take your appetite away for a day or two.
Yeah. I doubt anybody who's at my wedding is listening, but if you are, I apologize that we had absolutely nothing to eat that night. I'm pretty sure, except some really good potato chips.
Oh man, undercooked chicken.
Yeah.
We did that cooking for Thanksgiving, the turkey one time, and at my in-laws' place with the whole family there, and cut into the the turkey breast, and it was slicing it. It was pretty good, and then we started slicing some of the thigh, and my brother-in-law and I looked at each other and thought, "There we go, turkey tartare."
Wow!
So we're trying to scramble, you know, get it back in the oven and get something out that everybody can eat. But that was a disaster, and you know, I don't know what this says about me, but that's what I love about cooking. Is it's as close to kind of sports as you can get, probably, because you can prep, you can read directions if you like that, you can read recipes, you can do all the stuff, but there's no guarantee it's going to turn out
right.
And you know, you're always learning, and you learn by screwing up, but there's just no guarantee. You just wait and see how it turns out.
But it's so fun.
It's fun when it does, and when it doesn't, it's just, didn't turn out.
I did something back in, I think it was in December maybe, with a buddy named Brad, and Brad has gotten into open flame or open fire cooking. And I'm thinking, well, that's what my grill is. There's a flame and it's open, but
of course you're drawn to that.
Totally different thing, exactly. No, but this was so much fun. He has an incredible little outdoor kitchen set up. But he has the deal where I don't know, it's probably 4 feet by 3 feet, and it's a big cook area. So he's got literally just a bunch of logs, fire rolling, and he's got this metal contraption that hangs over with the chains hanging down. So we had meat dangling in the air. I mean, it was like a
beautiful
whole different way of cooking. And I was so not in my element. So I know enough to be dangerous about it. But it was such a blast that night. We had a lot of cast iron. So we would set the cast iron on a grate and, you know, cooked our veggies there. But it turned, he cooked a big, oh my gosh, where's my brain?
I don't know.
What are the tomahawk steak?
I was going to say, give me a category. An animal.
I was about to draw a picture.
Cow?
But this big old tomahawk, and it turned out phenomenal. But he also has this really nice pizza oven. I mean, the outdoor pizza oven, you know, that he finished the steak in. Oh my gosh, that would be something. If I had money to blow, that I'd blow money on, is building an outdoor kitchen area.
Yeah,
like that. That would be. I think that'd be a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my little Kamado Joe works great for me. You're a green egg guy, but basically the same things.
Well, I'm a green egg guy because my wonderful father-in-law gave it to me years ago because it was just sitting there at his house. I said, "Man, are you ever going to use that thing?" It's not really.
You wear that thing out though, man. You use it all the time. I kill it
all the time.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the whole process of it.
Yeah.
So
we got big weekends coming up here, you know, over the next few weeks. What do we have? Is there anything? I know Super Bowl's coming up.
Oh, that's right.
And I think I might watch. No, I will for sure. And then, Valentine's coming up. Is there anything that you kind of have on the menu that you're cooking that you're looking forward to?
Not Not that's on the radar right now. I usually like Saturday mornings, kind of have my coffee and kind of think through what I want to cook for the weekend or the next week.
Is the weekend the big time when you do most of your cooking?
A lot. I'll do some during the week.
Yeah.
I came up with a little lunch dish during a series of conference calls the other day on a Wednesday. It was really cold and dreary. Jen was at work, and I thought, man, I want something just kind of comforting. So this kind of chicken and wild rice, rosemary cream casserole thing.
Oh,
but,
my gosh.
Some people are going to go, oh, it sounds gross, but it was absolutely delicious. Yeah. Comfort food on a cold day. But I don't have anything on the horizon.
Yeah. Just curious if your brain was thinking about anything yet.
No, I've made some, I've done some stuff recently, but made a couple of indoor dishes that were good.
That's fun.
Yeah. So
when we had that really cold weather a couple weeks ago, we made 3 different soups in a week. And I wouldn't say like I'm a big soup guy, but these were all so incredible, man.
What were they?
One was like a sausage tortellini, like an Italian sausage tortellini soup, and it was just so rich. My buddy Scott had said something about it, and so I looked at it, and oh my gosh, it was spicy, but not didn't blow your mouth up. But we did that one night. We did we did just a very simple tomato basil soup, but truly homemade.
Delicious.
Tomatoes, mixed up with the immersion blender.
Right.
Good golly. And I went old school. I made a grilled cheese sandwich with 4 different kind of cheese.
Yeah.
Oh,
of course you did.
Gosh, it was so good. And then there's this Harvest chicken chowder soup we make. It's kind of a go-to soup. It's got a little bow tie pasta in it and just chunks of chicken and veggies. But oh my gosh, I don't know. Oh, and then Laura, I guess, made 4 that week because she made her a chicken wild rice soup, which sounds a lot like the dish you were just talking about. And
I love chicken and rice.
I can eat that all day long.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Jen makes a chicken and wild rice cream soup that's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
we sound like our friend Joe. When we talk about chicken and rice, like
I don't know, man.
That boy,
dude loves chicken and rice, man. Guy loves rice. He does,
man.
Golly, he does. Yeah. So, we could keep talking about food. I could talk about food all day.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing that you've challenged me on about food is that you've gotten better at than I am, and I want to learn more from you. Is you're understanding more and more of the science of food. Like, what's that book? I never get the 4 words right.
Oh man, Jen got this for me for my birthday a few years ago. Salt, fat, acid, and heat.
Yeah.
So again, looking for a sponsorship. I can't remember the lady's name. She's great. She's got a Netflix special. But it's how those 4 things work chemically together.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law is excellent at this. His brain kind of works that way. He's really smart anyway. But just how those things work together.
Yeah.
And the science of what salt does to a piece of food.
Right.
Fat and acids, how they work together, how heat is, like you're talking about the temperature on the brisket, sometimes good, low, high. So I love reading about that, learning about that, experimenting with it, and seeing how it goes.
Excuse me. When I watched her Netflix special, the one on fat, she does in Italy.
Yes.
And she talks about the differences in olive oil.
Yes.
You're talking about a mic drop moment for me. Like, I've never even thought about olive oils being different, right? It's just not. Again, I'm not that serious of a cook, but when she was talking about it, I was like, well, that makes all the sense in the world. Of course, different olives are going to create a different kind of oil.
Sure. Just like grapes for wine.
Wine, exactly. But for some reason, I'd never. I buy my big Kirkland brand olive oil, and we're off to the races.
Yeah,
man. When I finished watching that episode, she had talked about some place in Italy, and I don't remember it, that has the perfect olives and therefore the best olive oil in the world. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try. Yeah. So I go on Amazon, find this bottle of olive oil she's been talking about, and it's like 16 ounces for like $40. And I'm going, I've never spent that much money for olive oil, but by golly, I'm going to buy it. And in my mind, I'm going to prove that she's not right. So this bottle of olive oil comes in, and I remember one night, one of our daughters-in-law, Jessica, was over, and Laura and Jessica and I and Sarah might have been there. I don't know. There were 3 or 4 of us. I bought some nice bread, and I had 3 different kind of olive oil. I had the one I normally use, just the big bottle from Costco. I had some lemon-infused olive oil that someone had given me for a gift sometime. And then I had this bottle that I just got in the $40 bottle. And so we did the blind taste test. Oh, my gosh.
It's easy.
I mean, it was unbelievable. Yeah. It was unbelievable. So I spend more money on olive oil now than I ever have.
Yeah.
And I think
it's worth every penny. Yeah.
It is.
I got
it's
it.
so good.
It is. So what happens when you cook a meal and it doesn't turn out?
Well, at what level? We throw it away. I beat myself up.
How do you feel about it?
Oh man, I'm too hard on myself. Like again, it's that whole thing that's so foundational to me. My shame. You know, I feel like, oh my gosh, I should have been able to do that right. Instead of being able to laugh at it, going, okay, well, there's one I need to keep working on, or there's one I'll probably never cook again. But I'll beat myself up initially. But usually, what I've learned is when I'm thinking it's turned out terrible, it's really not terrible. It's just not what I expected it to be.
Right.
And I think it's what you said earlier. Most cooking, the kind of cooking that you and I do, it's almost always redeemable. There's a little bit more salt you can add. There's a little bit more sauce you can put on the meat.
Right.
There's something, you know. I think the place where I've almost completely stopped doing is baking. I used to say I really like to bake, but I realized I didn't like to bake. I like to make brownies and chocolate chip cookies. You know, that's not baking.
Right.
Because, God, the science of baking.
The precision.
Is brutal. And, you know, Sarah has a roommate. Her name's Aubrey. Aubrey's phenomenal. She's like a pastry chef, like trained.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh, my gosh. She made a birthday cake for Sarah this year that was gorgeous. I mean, it was just beautiful and tasted delicious. But I think when I see people that do that and I realize that's my problem. I'm not precise enough. I'm like, oh, a little bit of that, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And on the stovetop or even on the grill, you can usually cheat with that and be okay with something.
Right.
But the baking world, I'm like, I've raised the white flag, you know.
Right.
There's too many Aubreys in the world I can hire to make a cake.
Yeah, no, I don't. Same thing. I don't do too much precision there for me. My brain doesn't work that way, and I don't have a particular sweet tooth. So again, it's like I'll really go to bat and put the time into something that I like. Yeah. But if I don't love to eat it, I don't. You know, too much time.
So here's a fun question, just for giggles. If you had to enter like one of these cooking shows or something, and you've got one meal that you're going to cook to try to impress some judge, like, what would be your go-to? You go, man, this is what I feel like when I cook. It's consistent, it's steady, it's solid, it's always going to be good. I feel like I've got something unique enough to it that I'll do it.
So do I have some time constraints?
I don't care. How do you want to answer the question? No, you don't.
Okay.
Or would it help if you had time constraints?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I'll watch these shows and I'm thinking, man, if I've got 30 minutes and blind ingredients, that would be a blast.
You would love that.
Oh my gosh.
See, I don't think I could do that.
And I would statistically, I'd probably fall on my face, but I would love that. That would be awesome. Yeah. Man, I hate to be mundane, but I'm just going to say I probably make one of the best strip steaks you're ever going to eat.
Really?
That's a bold statement on a podcast.
I like that.
You know?
Like that. Well, yeah.
And I eat at steakhouses. I ate at a nice steakhouse in Minneapolis a few weeks ago. I've been to all the ones here in Nashville. I'm going to say
your
my
steaks
strip
are incredible.
Is it's pretty good.
Yep. So that would be it.
That would probably be it. I get typecast as a gumbo guy because I used to work in Louisiana a lot, so I make really good gumbo. But a lot of people make good gumbo.
Yeah.
And if you get it, if it's good, it's good. It all tastes the same. You know, people either know how to do gumbo or you don't. And I know it because I'd learned from somebody.
From the right people.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
So, but that's a good, that's a crowd favorite with my
I don't think I ever knew the gumbo about you.
Really?
I don't think
I've never made that for you?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Your steaks, oh my gosh, I love when you make a steak, but
yeah,
I don't think I knew that. Well, gumbo soon.
It's winter. Yeah, we'll do that. It goes out of stock in April, so
right.
Can't make it.
No summer gumbo.
No summer gumbo. No summer lasagna. None of those. We're very seasonal at our house on food.
Yeah. No. Well, we did our family Italy trip. Not family, but with one of our kids and his family. Was that? I guess it's 2 summers ago now. And I was on the quest for the perfect lasagna. I love lasagna. And so every day for lunch, I would get a little thing of lasagna. I'm seriously, like OCD, right? Oh my gosh. So I was so confident coming home I could make really good lasagna now because I would talk to the waiters. I got a couple chefs that came out and talked to me, and they were just charmers, awesome Italians. I love those folks. Yeah. So I thought I've got a couple secrets now. I came home and I like my lasagna, but I'll never be able to make it like that. They cheat somehow, man. It was so good.
But everything is a cheat code over there.
Oh, it is.
And so it's just almost impossible to replicate over. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're just not starting with the same stuff.
Yep.
So
anyway, well, from my little lighters to kind of exhausting what we cooked together.
Flames.
It's kind of fun. I like it.
You're a new grandfather again.
Yes, at 3:22 this morning,
Man.
little Winnie Mae entered the world. That's our 9th grandchild, and
Wow.
I know. Gosh, I was thinking about this morning. I thought, okay, 2 things happened. One, we now have 9 grandkids and 9 adults in our family. So the inmates truly are running the family right now.
There's no doubt. Y'all are so outnumbered, and you're tired.
We are. It's awesome. We haven't met her yet. Going up here just a little bit later today. Can't wait to meet her. And then the other thing I realized, okay, our family's always been boys' family. You know, Laura and I had 3 sons and a daughter, so it's always been boy predominant. But we are now, 8 boys, 10 girls in our crew. And so when we're all together, it's like we're becoming this girl tribe, and it's really fun. Great daughters-in-law, and then these precious little granddaughters running around. I saw one of my other granddaughters this morning. She popped in. Her dad's office is just across the hallway here, and she's 5 years old. Steve, she started barrel racing, like barrel racing, and they've got a neighbor just like 5 minutes away that's teaching her. And
that is awesome.
This is the fun part of this season of life for me, is watching these grandkids find their hobbies, whether it's one of my granddaughters who's going to be a little serial entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure, and had a lemonade stand and a hot chocolate. So you've come down, you bought.
Palmer.
She's killed it. It's been so fun. And it's fun.
She wouldn't extend me any credit.
Oh, she drives a tough bargain.
She must know. Yeah, she must have some insight in that.
Yeah, she'd run a credit report on you.
Yeah, says nope, that's not going to work
not
for you.
Mr.
No,
Steve.
sorry about that.
So yeah, a new precious life. I tell you.
Did you ever think you'd have 9 grandkids?
I think I was so excited about, when Laura and I got married, starting our own little family. We'd have a few kids, and it's like grandkids weren't even a driver for me. I mean, I knew that sooner or later your kids get married and your kids may have kids, but I think now that I'm in this season, I'm blown away by the joy of it. But I would have thought we would. I don't know. I guess I just didn't do the math. With 4 kids, of course you're going to have more than 2 or 3 grandkids probably.
Right.
But 9, and to realize up until today, only 2 of our 4 kids have been having babies so far. So I don't know if Jonathan and Sydney had their baby today, if they have more kids, and Sarah, when she gets married one day, she'd love to have a family. I just think, I don't know, we're going to have a football team for sure.
More than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, with subs.
A college football team, like with NIL and everything.
Ooh, wonder if I can get people to sponsor my kids. That's a good idea.
For our kids. We've talked a lot about sponsorship this morning.
Yeah, so. we must be bored.
Yeah, right.
Or broke.
So I've heard this phrase a lot, kind of piggybacking on what you said. I've heard it a lot lately. I've said it a couple of times, how life kind of sneaks up on you. Mm. So I wanted you to put your counselor hat on for a minute.
Okay, I'll try.
I never thought I'd be blank age, fill in the age, could be any age, and be in this position, good or bad.
Yeah.
Like I never realized I'd be 22 and in the working world, and I'd have to deal with all that. Yeah. I didn't think, didn't know what that would feel like. Mm-hmm. Never been 35 and had my 3rd kid, or
you're right,
60 and all of a sudden, the end is
battling a health concern or whatever. Yeah.
So when I say that, what do you think?
I think it's a pretty common phrase I hear. It's something along the, "Gosh, I never thought this would be my story," and I think generally those are connected to difficulties. But I think there's also probably the same feeling if we pause and think about it, even on some of the good things. Like I never thought I would be celebrating a 9th. Just going back to what we just said, a 9th grandchild.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't on the radar. I'm going to edit this out. I don't know what I'm doing right now.
I don't think we have to edit it out.
Ask me your question again. I feel like I'm just.
Well, I think you
saying a bunch of nothing.
Restated it better. I never thought my story would be. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Question was, I've just heard this phrase a lot lately, and I've said it a few times. Like I think I've actually gotten to the age of the last year. I've thought about this a lot about my own mortality.
Yeah.
Like I'm 58.
Yeah.
And not that that's, I know if you're in your 80s, 90s, whatever, listening, you're like, oh yeah, well just wait. But
right.
Still, I think everybody faces that at some point. But like I never, man, I don't know what's left. Yeah. In terms of time, and it just makes you think about things differently. But it could also be I've heard younger people say this, man, this is a new, never thought that's a good way to say it. Never thought my story would be, just describe what you hear people say when they come to you and have that, make that statement or have that question.
Well, I think even this week of a family who, man, they've got a lot of kids, and husband and wife are probably early 40s, and they're successful. They get stuff done. They love their kids well. They're engaged with their family. But I was chatting with her earlier this week, and I think she just has that sense of going, oh my gosh, I just don't know where all the time goes every day. I'm, and again, there's a part of me going, well, got a house full of kids, and you stay busy with a lot of good activities, and her husband's running this big business. I'm going to, time's not going to change. It's going to be the exact same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. There's always going to be just 24 hours in it. Right. But what we pack into it changes that. So I think I hear that a lot. Is like, gosh, I'm not balancing everything well. But I think what you talked about just a minute ago is what I hear most of. I've got a lot of guys right now for some reason who are probably 50 and above, little behind you, not much. And I think they're all beginning to look into that second half of life thing, like, man, what's next? Some guys who maybe just lost a job and they're trying to figure out, well, do I want to stay in the same industry, or is this time for a retool, or a redesign of myself? Or guys who are looking at, man, do I want to retire? I'm set up financially where I probably can, but then they're going, gosh, that sounds so boring. And they're kind of asking that question. I didn't think I'd ever be at this place, and not sure what I want to do next. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that can be a great place to be, though. I think it's so scary because most of our life we're in control. We know what we're doing next. Or we think we know what we're doing next. We think we're in control.
I was going to say, are we really?
Yeah, right, exactly. But I think in those moments when I unexpectedly lose the job, or when I pause and I realize, my goodness, my marriage has taken a toll, and we've got 30, 40 years of marriage, and we still aren't experiencing what either of us wanted to. Right. But we're good people. We don't want to split. We want to make it work. Ouch. How do we do it? I think those moments can be golden opportunities to figure out, well, what does need to change? How do I approach this next season of life differently? So it can be a statement, I think, that's scary, but it can also be a statement that's kind of liberating, just going, well, wait a minute. Okay, I have a choice. What do I want to do differently now?
What when you say what do you want to do differently, do you tie when you hear that, let's say you're in your 50s and you've lost a job, do you tie that to something you've done, a choice you've made? Did I choose the wrong industry? Did I, do something poorly, or is it just circumstance, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think all of us, I don't know, most of us, it seems like at some point look back and go, oh my gosh, why did I go this route? Almost like a sense of sure resentment and regret, right? The problem is I'm not sure it's very generative. I'm not sure it's very productive for us to do that. At the end of the day, it's the route you went. It's not like you can go back and change it. There's no time machine, Back to the Future, isn't true, And so I think at some point you have to be able to go, well, this is the route I chose. This is what I've done. So from that life experience, what have I learned? And what do I want to keep doing? What do I want to change doing? Because I think, and I've shared this with you before, I think I spent too many years, about 15 years ago, just going, oh my gosh, have I just wasted my life away? And I spent probably 3 years caught in a little bit of a funk of just going through the motions and trying to just keep moving forward and trying to provide for the family, but feeling like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Instead of being able to go, no, there's a reason I took the path I took. And not all that reason is necessarily even good, but I took that path and I've learned something from that path. So how can I now use that as capital, if you please, to go, okay, what can I parlay this into for the next season of life?
That's good. Because I think, too, we talked about this in our first conversation, first episode. If you would have taken a different road. Yeah. There's no guarantee that. I think the assumption when we say, well, I wish, and there are some things, there are some things in my life I wish I had a mulligan over.
Of course.
On principles or things, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that. And I think statistically or in terms of principles, maybe things in an area would have been different. But the assumption when people say, man, I wish I would have taken a different road, is that road would be good.
Be better. Right.
It'd be better. Exactly. But that road is in a world that's tainted, and walking along it with people that are tainted and flawed. Yeah. So there would have been some problems on that road.
Well, and again, we always come back to our faith. It seems like, don't we, in our conversations? But at some level, I've got to be able to go, you know what? Somehow God in his kindness really was orchestrating my steps. Even in the missteps, he wasn't like going, oh my goodness. He was like,
didn't see that coming.
Watch me.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Watch me. I'm still at work, you know? And
yeah.
I think back sometimes going, had I only done blank, life would be better. That's exactly where my mind goes.
Right.
But then in a saner moment, I'll stop and go, wow, what if I really would have done blank? And then I think about where I was at 35, and had I been able to be in that kind of leadership role, and what my ego might have done to me. And I just think I could have blown my life up horribly also had I done that other thing. So sometimes I wonder if the paths that I should have taken that I didn't take, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I wonder if sometimes that was almost a divine protection of my life. You know what I mean? Because, Steve, I think had I been given the power that I thought I should have had in those days, I shudder to think what I might have done with it. I didn't have enough to use it responsibly. Crap, I haven't used the power I've been given at times responsibly. Yeah. But what I thought I should have had it at 35, at 40, I wonder sometimes if it was just God's kindness going, no, there's another route you've got to walk. But anyway, I think that's what I think about
a lot.
Man.
That's really good.
It's okay. And that's what I want people to hear. Wherever you are in your story, it's okay. You don't have to have it all buttoned down. And if you find yourself not liking where you are, okay, say that, but don't begrudge where you've been. There's something to be learned. I think it was John Kennedy who said he'd never met a person that he couldn't learn something from. Some phrase like that I think was attributed to him. And I've always thought what a great phrase. Anybody you meet, there's something you can learn from them. Well, the corollary is anywhere you've been in your life story, anything you've done in your life story, good, bad, indifferent, there's something to learn from it.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it all belongs, doesn't it?
It all belongs. Yep. But, man, it's so hard to get out of that. I do that, too. So I don't know that I go to something I could have done differently, but I just kind of, dive down into shame. Boy, I'm just, I'm an idiot, and I may have been an idiot on some things. Not may, I was.
Right.
And so, but to your point, that's part of my story. It's part of everyone's story. And what are you going to do now?
Yeah. One of the old saints from, I think, the 12th or 13th century, St. Julian said, sin is behoovely, a word I don't use.
You don't use it because nobody would know what it means.
Exactly. But behoovely, it basically means necessary. And so you think about this saint was saying, sin is necessary. And when you unpack what was being said there, it really is. It's not unlike what Paul says in Romans, is that it's through our sin that we understand our need for grace. It's where we understand our need that there's something we need more. It's necessary. It teaches us our dependence. I think that's true with mistakes. Mistakes are necessary. They're important. The wrong career path, if indeed that's what one of us took,
right.
It's necessary because it teaches me to go, oh wait, I can still make a mid-course correction. I can still adjust. I can still call an audible. There's something different I can do. And again, I think it's just what I love about that. It's a posture of being okay with going, oh, I'm a little more awake now, and I see that this probably isn't a good way for me to function. All right, awesome. That's been necessary to show me it's not working. How can I change? To me, that feels like such an important part of life at every stage of life, but especially as we get older, to be able to go, okay, well then, how do I want to do this different? If my relationship with my grown children isn't good, I don't need to mope about it. I don't need to retreat. I don't need to run away. I need to go, hey, what have I contributed that's made my relationship with my grown children not good? And how can I tweak it? How can I adjust it? That's where I think our mistakes can be necessary. They can be helpful. They can be beneficial.
What are the obstacles to that? To taking that approach?
Yeah. First thing pops in my mind is probably our pride, right? I don't want to have to walk in and admit, gosh, I've not been doing something well. Gosh, I should have been more attentive to you, honey, in our marriage. It's like ownership. I find myself more and more talking about these three words over and over again with people in my office, and I feel like it's kindergarten sometimes. But I realize I talk to myself about these words all the time. It's the word ownership. You know, will you take ownership of what you've done? Will you just take responsibility? You know, if you screwed up, okay, it's not the end of the world. You called your wife a name. You got too angry. You drank too much. I mean, I don't care what it is. Just take ownership.
Yeah.
I screwed up. You know, the second word I talk about all the time is apology. Okay, ownership isn't an apology. Ownership is saying I did wrong. Apology is saying, and gosh, my behavior hurt you. I'm genuinely, truly sorry.
Right.
Again, this is kindergarten, right? but I think the older we get, the more we forget. I need to take ownership. I need to apologize. And then I think the third word is, and this one goes kind of both directions, is forgiveness. Wow. Okay, your spouse really hurt you, and they're owning it, and they're moving toward a place of trying to apologize. What does forgiveness look like? And I think we become such a victim culture that, well, once you hurt me, I'm entitled to hold on my hurt indefinitely.
Yeah.
And I get there's not a switch we can click that hurt hurts. I want people to have time to process hurt. Absolutely. But by golly, forgiveness is not an emotion. Forgiveness is a choice. And so at some point I've got to be able to go, gosh, when someone has done something that's kind of crossed the line with me, how do I be able to go, oh, Steve, that did hurt, dude. And thank you for owning it. And thanks for the apology. And my commitment is I'm going to forgive you. I'm moving that way. And I got to get, the emotions need to catch up a little bit. Sorry.
It's going to take some time.
But I'm going to get there.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
I'm committed to our friendship. I'm going to get there, you know?
Yeah.
There's something about that language I think is liberating.
That's good.
So I think it's that pride feels like it's what keeps me from making those adjustments at times.
Well, I think that's what's been fun about our conversations with, you and I and our other guys that are in our group, we're in our group over the years, is that was a spot where you could say, you could kind of talk about those things.
Yeah.
And somebody could relay a story and, man, she really pissed me off and, yada, yada. And, hey, man, I hear you, but, boy.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? And it sounds like it takes two on that. You weren't exactly, great either. Yeah. And so...
Yeah, there's something powerful about that when someone can hold a mirror up to you and say, yeah, so what do you need done in that?
Right. Yeah. And you think about I was thinking about this the other day, but in God's sense of humor, I think my two kids are really smart. They take after their mother. She's really smart. And they went to college, got out in 4 years. It took me longer than 4 years. And it was a circuitous route. Filled with a lot of things. And I think about that a lot because I think, man, I'd love a mulligan on that.
Yeah.
But what I'm really saying is, gosh, I wish I'd had more discipline then.
Yeah.
But because of that circumstance, that's how I met my wife.
Yep.
That's how I have my kids.
That's right.
That's how you and I met on that timeline. So I'm not sure you can go back and, have do-overs and take away all the, it's the wonderful life story, if you're not around, all these things, there are tentacles that go everywhere, but it is hard, I think, especially in our culture, to let your pride down and say, man, I'm really maybe not as proficient as people think I am at a certain thing.
Right. Exactly. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it gets harder. I think the older you get, you realize, man, maybe... do I have enough time to make that right?
Right. No, I think that's true. Fear starts to get activated. Oh my gosh, am I going to be okay?
What makes you afraid when you look into the future?
Maybe it's the afterglow of this the news of this baby in the world today. And looking forward to meeting this new little grandchild. But gosh, as you asked the question today, I feel like as I think back over the recent past, I don't know that I'm living with a whole lot of fear about the future right now. I can certainly tell you that's not always been the truth, and it may not always be true. But I think there's this part of me. The last few years, I've been so intentional about thinking about the aging process and just kind of embrace that things are changing, and I still feel great. I look on the calendar and I go, okay, I'm 65. I don't feel like I'm 65, but it doesn't matter what I feel like. I am. It's objectively the truth. But I don't get scared about being older. I'm as I mentioned last time. I'm looking at my 95-year-old father-in-law, and man, he's aging really well. He's addressing it well, and I just think, I don't know. There's just part of me going, I'm not scared of getting older. I'm not excited about the pain that may come with it physically along the way. But I don't feel fear about it right now. So maybe I'm in denial somewhere. But I don't feel like there's a whole lot right now hanging over my head that I'm like, oh gosh, I'm dreading this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's always concerns when I think about, oh gosh, will we really be okay financially? I don't want to be a burden on the kids.
Right.
You know, that
Sure.
I think that's always in there at some level. But all I know is, well, I've been as responsible as I know how to be. I've tried to do some catch-up work in the last few years.
Right.
Not a lot I can do about it. And if it happens, it happens.
It is what it is now.
You know, again, I've not been irresponsible.
Yeah.
What about you? Great question.
I don't think I'm that far along on the continuum yet. I think it's just kind of dawned on me that I think I've always, I'm pretty good at living in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not great at planning for the longer term future, and I don't mean just financially. I'm just talking about I don't, like you said earlier, I don't, 20 years ago, I didn't think, man, I would like to have 10 grandkids.
Right.
I just thought all of a sudden you have a kid, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got a kid. I'm in that moment. And then I have another kid. I'm in that moment. And I just don't, but I always thought, I'll think about that later. I've got time.
Right.
And now I think for whatever reason, it's just dawned on me in the last, 6 months or a year, I think, man, I'm at the age where I don't know that I have, who knows how much time I have left. I don't mean that. I don't mean that as a, oh no, don't say that. I mean that as a, hey, that's just a reality. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And I may have 30 or 40 years, but I may not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I think that would be a great conversation for us to intentionally kick around sometime about this whole aging well, what's going on kind of in our culture with aging, anti-aging industry. I mean, there's so much going on that's giving these conflicting messages that it's almost like we don't want to have a place for old people instead of being able to go, gosh, I think some of the best I'm going to ever have to offer is coming in the future.
And see, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I don't.
We need to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't, man, that's a great comment. I'm not there.
Yeah.
I think I'm grieving leaving that behind. I know physically when I get out of bed, and everything pops and creaks, you can hear me walking into, get some clothes, but and I know that gets, physically, mentally, emotionally, your body's winding down.
Yeah.
It's only meant for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what I've been feeling the last 6 months is I'm just grieving getting older.
Wow.
There's I don't have a great vision for what the next part of life looks like. Although last night we went to my son and daughter-in-law's house and had dinner, had pizza, and they got a new pool table, so we played pool outside in the garage. It was so fun, and
that's great.
Thinking, man, it was just enjoyable to be around, and that in the future sounds great.
Yeah.
Grandkids, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I think I'm at that point where I just don't have a great idea of what the next stage of life looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, thank you for your honesty. I think the word grieving is a powerful, powerful word.
Yeah.
And I know that's not something that comes natural for you. And I think it's I think it's important.
Yes.
Because this is a, I think as this season we're in, I know I'm a little bit ahead of you, but I think this season that we're both in, we have to realize, gosh, I'm saying goodbye to some things. There are some things that will never be the way they used to be. You know,
and
that's hard because we rage against that. I don't want to say goodbye to it.
And it's just strange. It's like there are things that there's just things I cannot do anymore.
Right.
And again, I don't say that with a sense of despair necessarily, just that there's been very few, well, I'm going to say this the right way or say this accurately, I guess. There's always something you can't do.
Sure.
But I think even physically, I've been able to do a lot of things.
Right.
And now, man, I can't. I can't do that anymore.
Can you go dunk a basketball for me today?
I can't. And I could until I was almost 50 years old.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
But the fact that I can't do it anymore it's just strange, you know, and every time I pick something up and my wife says, "Oh, you're back." And I'm like, "Oh, don't say that anymore. Come on, man. It's just, it's a bag of groceries. I'm not going to hurt my back." But I could.
Right.
It's
right.
like, so those things, I think those things, this is the first time, I guess, that certain things have come to an end.
Yeah. We were with some friends down in Georgia this weekend, and we stayed in this beautiful Airbnb up in the mountains, and he had brought some fly fishing gear. And there's a little river that really ran right behind our Airbnb. And so we go down. He goes, "Let's go down and do some fly fishing." And I used to fly fish as a kid. I don't know much, but I thought, I'll go. Well, to get down there, we had to walk. I mean, it maybe 30 yards. It wasn't far at all. But we had to walk down down this big hill, but then also had some little steps that somebody had cut in them. So just, like mud steps. It's funny, there were a couple times on the steps, and it had rained, so it was a little muddy. And I felt myself moving so slowly. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not that old. What am I doing?" But I'm super aware of, if I slip and I fall, it's going to be bad.
The recovery's not what it used to be.
No, it isn't. So I just started laughing. My buddy Sean looked back at me. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm walking like an old man down these steps." And, but there's some wisdom in just going, okay, I could fall, but I also don't want to become, okay, I'm Mr. Debilitated now, because I'm not. I can still get up and down steps, okay.
Sure, yeah.
But it is. It's. I think the more you live, the more you're aware of the inherent potential for danger, and it impacts you. But back to what I was saying, I think part of aging has to be connected with being able to grieve well, because I know this about grieving. When I can grieve one thing, it opens up my hand to receive something else. And I think part of when you're saying, "I don't really have a vision for what this next chapter looks like," I go, makes sense. You're still holding on to what you want it to be, is my guess. Yeah. Right. And grieving, I always say grieving is that when we start opening up our hand and go, okay, I'm releasing that. It is gone. It's not what I thought it was. But it's as that hand's open that something else can come back in, that we can go, oh, that's what I'll hold on to for this next season now. That's where my hope is going forward.
Yeah. I think, for me, it's easier to see in some areas. I'm not, I would say I was hyper competitive for a lot of my life. That's almost 100% gone. I mean, to the chagrin of some of my golf buddies in our team events, like, "Come on, man, don't you want to win?" I'm like, "Dude, not really." I just like, so some of it goes away, but then there are parts I still hold on to that, man, I just want to be, kind of want to be 35 or 25. But then I really don't, you know.
Right.
I'd have to be really nice and recycle and drive a Subaru. So I don't want to do those things.
You like your car too?
I like being old and kind of crotchety. So that's good. It's okay. Yeah, that's good though.
All right.
That's a good word.
Well, I'm getting ready to go to the hospital and go meet this precious new little grandbaby.
Excited about that.
That'll be a fun day. It'll be a fun day.
Can you name all of your grandkids?
Sure.
You remember all their names?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Birth dates?
No.
Yeah. All right.
I think I know how old they all are, but
approximately.
Okay, but this is where Laura blows my mind. Like, if she were here right now, she could tell you probably. Well, I know for sure their names. I know for sure how old they are, their birthdays. Guarantee you. Wouldn't be surprised if she could tell you what time of day, if not the exact time they were born. I mean,
size, weight.
Oh,
height and weight. Yeah.
I mean, literally. What is it like 7 hours ago? Jonathan told me the size and the weight of his precious little baby girl. I'm not sure, but I know it was good.
Seemed normal. Seemed like in a normal range.
Yeah. It wasn't like 30 pounds, and it wasn't like 4 pounds. So I know somewhere in that good range,
Right. All right. Well, go enjoy that. That's fun.
I will. We'll talk soon.
Good stuff.